and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Welcome to Ask the Experts radio show, proudly sponsored by board-certified family law attorney Tina Lewert of Lewert Law, LLC. Sit back for the next half hour as host Steve-O interviews top experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Steve-O offers such educational topics as community association law, family law, chiropractic care, employment law, healthcare law, and public insurance adjusting. Interviews by top experts in their field. And now, here's your host, Steve-O.
Hey, good evening. It's good to have you. This is another Ask the Expert show, and we have got an incredible show tonight. I don't know if I would call it a downer show, but we're going to help you to feel better after this show's over with. You know, we always listen to you when you tell us what kind of shows you want, and you have been asking for us to get a real estate / foreclosure attorney to come on our show. And, you know, I got to tell you, when we were doing our research, there is a lot of, you go to Yelp and you see a lot of that didn't have a lot of good things to say about them. I mean, this is Ask the Experts, so we've got to have the best of the best. Now, the Bar Association probably won't like me saying that, but that's okay. It's my show. But I want to welcome you tonight. We found the best of the best real estate attorney who handles foreclosure. We're going to talk about foreclosure tonight. I want to introduce you to our guest, Tayson Gaines of the Gaines firm, and he's also here with his daughter tonight. Welcome, Tayson.
Thank you for having me.
Bro, it feels like we've been talking about this for a year.
We have.
I know. It's just, but you know what? Listen, I got to tell you, Tayson really does his due diligence, and this is somebody you would want to represent you. So first of all, tell us about your firm.
Sure. So my firm, we've been open going on 5 years now. We do mostly real estate law, so it's probably 50 to 60% of my practice. That includes foreclosure defense, partitions, quiet titles, contractual disputes, anything pretty much real estate, titles, closings, all types of things. But we also do some personal injury law cases, and we also do some discrimination cases as well as business litigation.
So you do some employment stuff too.
A little bit of employment.
Okay. But your main focus is on foreclosure defense, real estate, and you said something before about some kind of a quiet contract?
Quiet title, maybe?
Quiet title.
Okay, yeah.
What is that?
So quiet title is essentially a legal term of art that we use to, for when someone wants to make a claim that the deed that is of record, that is considered the legal deed of record at the time, that there's something wrong with it, right?
Okay.
Maybe there's a different owner that should be on the deed that's not on the deed. Maybe they're claiming there was a fraudulent execution of the deed that went into the record. Anything that puts the sufficiency and legitimacy of a deed into question would necessitate a quiet title action.
Okay. Well, we're really going to be talking a lot about foreclosure. And I got to tell you, it used to be you would be embarrassed if you had to claim bankruptcy. It's not a big deal anymore. It's nothing to hold your head down. No. And now with what's going on with everything, if you've got to foreclose on, we've had a major pandemic. Listen, go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Food is skyrocketed. Inflation is up. Yeah. Gas is up. And, a person can only do so much. People are out of work. But tonight, what I want to get across, and Tayson's going to be with us every month. I want to get across tonight that don't try to do this yourself.
Oh, well, I mean, that's with any legal case, but especially in foreclosures, right? We're dealing with usually
To
someone.
save some money.
Right, to think I can do it myself way, right?
Exactly.
And I said we're in a legal Zoom culture now, so everybody's got access to some lawyer they know or some Google site that they use to get forms, and sometimes
Exactly.
yeah, sometimes
I'm
those
glad
things
you
can,
said that.
yeah, they can do more harm than good.
Right.
And I always tell people, you can do anything you want. You can represent yourself, and but I always counter and say, well, would you perform surgery on yourself?
Exactly.
And then usually I get a look that puts it into question.
You know what I think the good thing about hiring an attorney like you is once they retain you, they don't have to worry about it anymore. You handle that. You talk to the banks. You work out things. And, and I guess we want to talk about loan modifications tonight too, but explain to everybody what foreclosure actually is.
Sure. So foreclosure is a legal process by which a lender or someone with an interest in the property, but usually a lender, a bank, who financed your mortgage, right, will then recall that mortgage or call in that debt, right, due to usually failure or lack of payment, right? So being that we're in this time that we're in now, there's a lot of people who are in forbearance or some form of modification where they're pushing their payments back. And so once this kind of blows over, those payments are going to become due. And sometimes they can be what's called accelerated. So they can all be due at one time.
Wow.
So if you could have 12, 18 months of backed up payments that the bank then calls to be due all at once. And so now most people can't afford $20,000, $30,000 worth of lump sum payment to keep their mortgage in place. And then they could be potentially subject to foreclosure, which is where the lender then would come in through legal process, use their interest in the mortgage to then get the ownership of the property and take that ownership back due to the lack of payment.
If the lender really doesn't want the house back, do they?
Well, I think that's relative. I think that used to be the case.
Oh, okay.
I think now there's many.
Because the resale value and everything.
Yeah, the resale value is up now, and so many lenders are going back after these properties. They're not going to hold them long. The minute they get back, they're selling at a premium. So the times, in 2012 to like 15, where there was still a allotment of properties on the inventory list of these banks that they had recouped from the foreclosure meltdown in 08 and 09, that's kind of died down now, and they sold those off at these higher sale values. So they don't, traditionally, lenders don't want to take back mortgages because foreclosure is an expensive process. It can
Okay.
be a time-consuming process for them, and then they still have to preserve the asset, right,
Exactly.
until sale. So they would prefer not to, but you're finding many, many more lenders taking on that action because the investment is worth it. The prices are there on the retail sale market.
So if someone receives a letter from a lender about his missed mortgage payments,
Sure.
what do they do? What do you do if you're getting behind on your mortgage?
Right. So by rule, by code and statute, you are authorized, every homeowner is required to receive a notice of default that they've defaulted on their payments, and they're required to receive what's called a notice of intent to accelerate the loan, right, which is the bank's right to then accelerate the loan and call the entire loan to be due.
Wow.
And that's something that they can exercise. Now, generally, if you can pay off what you owe, they'll take those payments and allow you to put your mortgage back in place.
When would they bring you in
As far as who?
as retaining you?
Oh, well, I mean, essentially, most clients are going to retain me on the foreclosure side within the 20 days after they receive a service of
Okay.
summons for the foreclosure, right? So most people will get served. They have 20 days to respond. That's the most important time. That's the time where it's pretty much make or break time. If you
You don't want to avoid them.
not only do you not want to avoid them, but you don't want to try to respond to that yourself.
Exactly.
And then hire an attorney later, because in the court of law, you get one shot at the apple. You get one bite at it. And if you don't answer that complaint properly, you could have waived a ton of good defenses that you could have
You
had.
could say the wrong thing.
Right. You can say the wrong thing, and saying nothing can be an admission, right?
got
And that's
you.
where you come in when you're saying you have to do something, you have to take action. You don't want to do it on your own, but you have to take action. If you don't within those 20 days, you could be on a fast track to losing your home, more so because of the failure to respond than substantively the bank being able to get the
I
home
got
back.
you.
Yeah.
Now, you and I at the beginning of the show, because this just blows me away that, landlords aren't allowed to kick renters out
Well, for failure to pay rent.
for failure to pay rent, which
Yes.
is the only reason you would probably kick them out. I mean, I'm sure there's other reasons, but
Yeah.
what's going to happen with these owners, though?
Well, the owners are in a bit of a tough spot, and I'm representing a lot of owners now, and it's a constant question because, there are some subsidies out there for tenants to get rental payments that
Okay.
can then subsidize some of those missed payments to the landlords. But in the event that you're a landlord who unfortunately doesn't have the type of tenant that's going to be proactive and go secure those funds, a lot of my clients are having to backload their loans, go into forbearances, push those payments back because they can't afford to carry the payments on their rental properties in addition to their primary mortgages.
Why can't the government do the same for landlords as they're doing for tenants?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I would like to think that eventually something will have to be done. I'm not sure how it would be structured. I think that right now the hope is that it will pass through from the tenants on to the landlords. I know there's a lot of programs out there that are very efficient. Tenants, as long as they apply, have
They
been
still owe that money, though.
right, but
The
they've been-
tenant, right?
Yeah, I'm saying the tenant has been getting funds from their local government. So, like, for example, Palm Beach County has a great program that will give tenants their missed rental payment monies if they haven't been able to work, right? Same thing, there's some state programs that are also available. And so that money would then directly pass through to the landlord. Landlord would be able to satisfy their obligation with the mortgage company. But not every tenant is doing that, obviously. So
I've
that-
heard some
Yeah,
bad-
that's creative.
People are buying new cars, and I mean,
Yeah.
it's really not fair.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But the landlord isn't really taken care of with this. And you know what's upsetting to me is the CDC made this last extension.
Sure.
They're not allowed to do that, but there are though.
Well,
The
that's a
CDC
good point.
doesn't set law.
Great point. So it's been litigated. I believe certain jurisdictions have turned it over already. I would agree with you. I don't understand where the CDC authority comes from
Right.
to do that. They don't write laws. They're not congressmen. They're not the legislature. So I don't think they have the authority. But I'm not a constitutional attorney, so
understand.
I don't. Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, I am so glad, Tayson, that we have you. We're going to go to break. First of all, give everybody your phone number.
Sure. So the number is 1-800-241-1559 nationally. On the local level here, it's 561-543-9226.
And you have a website.
Yes, the website is www.t as in Tom, Gaines, Gaines, law, law.com, tgainslaw.com.
Freddie, doesn't Taysom Gaines sound like it should be like a defensive back's name or? God, I mean, I keep saying it. It's I know. Anyway, we're going to go to break, and when we come back, we have more with attorney Tayson Gaines of the Gaines Law Firm, and we're talking foreclosure tonight. We'll be right back.
Attorney Tayson Gaines practices real estate litigation, including but not limited to foreclosure defense, partition actions, quiet title, short sales, loan modifications, insurance claims adjustments, title deeds, and real estate contract disputes. Attorney Gaines attended the University of Miami School of Law. Mr. Gaines acquired his experience in real estate litigation by assisting with landlord-tenant disputes and foreclosure defense. Foreclosure is a legal process where a creditor, such as a lender or condo association, files a lawsuit to obtain judgment authorizing it to place your property up for sale at a public auction. At the Gaines Law Firm, you will have a one-on-one consultation to discuss different options, including loan modifications, refinance, and whether bankruptcy is recommended. Once you receive notice about the lawsuit, most people typically have 20 days to respond to the suit. If you file a response contesting the foreclosure action, it may take years before a judge rules or whether to grant foreclosure. Most people don't know that there are many options available to them when faced with foreclosure. Attorney Gaines, a real estate attorney, is equipped to prepare and review documents relating to real estate, such as purchase agreements, mortgage documents, title documents, and transfer documents in most cases. Don't try to take the big banks on alone. Contact Attorney Tayson Gaines at 561-543-9226. That's 561-543-9226.
And we are back.
Now,
This is
with
the Ask
more
the
of the
Expert
Ask
show.
the Experts radio show, proudly sponsored by board-certified family law attorney Tina Lewert of Lewert Law LLC, covering South Florida.
Okay. Anyway, this is the Ask the Expert show. I'm your host, Steve-O. We're doing a show tonight on foreclosure. If you have maybe your parents, God forbid, maybe a friend, a cousin, you know someone who is thinking about going through foreclosure, first thing you get out there and tell them, do not try to save money by doing it themselves, because it's going to cost them, I guarantee you, a lot more. We have one of the best foreclosure attorneys, real estate attorneys in South Florida, and his name is Tayson Gaines. We're talking about foreclosures. Tayson, is there an alternative to foreclosure?
Sure, there's plenty of alternatives to foreclosure, but it just kind of depends on where you are in the process,
Okay.
right? So what we call pre-foreclosure, so prior to them filing a lawsuit against you, you have a number of options. Those are your traditional modifications, forbearances, things like that, right? Once they've filed a foreclosure lawsuit, it becomes tougher, but ultimately you have the right to pay off what you owe and have your debt reinstated. So as long as you can pay the built-up debt that you've accumulated, which they're going to add attorney's fees, they're going to add the interest in, but as long as you can satisfy that, you can have it reinstated up until the day that the property is sold, right? And so you always have that option. And then, you know, if that's not an option, there's options like deed in lieu, where people will give you like cash for keys. You probably heard of that, where
Yes.
you know, when you're kind of at your last straw, if you just need to move out, certain times the
What
lenders
about
will offer-
short sales?
Short
Do they
sales are a
still
big thing.
Do short sales?
They do them.
You don't hear about them as much anymore.
Yeah, lenders don't like them.
Oh, they don't.
Yeah, because I mean, fundamentally, by definition, a short sale is a lender taking a loss on a debt.
Oh, okay.
Right, and so and you only really see them in big numbers as far as my practice, where like a secondary lender comes in and buys the debt at a fraction of the cost, and they can afford to kind of take on that hit and that short sale. But any traditional lender, if they extended $400,000 for a home, and you know you want to sell it for $200,000, somebody's got to take the loss. They usually don't want to do that.
What's going on in the real estate market here in South Florida? I mean, I hear things. Well, I heard interest rates are going up.
Well,
I heard houses don't last longer than a day.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
is that true?
Yeah, there's no inventory, right? So, and a lot of it is all the factors together, right? The pandemic brought in a big influx of higher value buyers from New York and California, right? And then we also are on the opposite side, we have renters not moving out, right? So now people refuse to move. It's hard for a lot of landlords to sell with tenants who are either in an active lease or refuse to leave or what have you. And so a lot of sellers are discouraged to sell. And so with those pressures all coming together, the prices are not only going up, but there's absolutely no inventory. So, I mean, every realtor I talk to, they can't keep a property on the market for longer
A
than a
lot
month.
of investors coming in.
A lot of investors coming in, foreign investors buying cash, so that puts an additional, you know, strain on the market where, you know, even some of the properties that may have been like value options before
Right.
are being bought up for cash and still at fair market value. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's
So if you're a seller You're in good shape.
You're in great shape right now.
Buyer, maybe not so much.
Well, I mean, if you can afford it, but ultimately, like you said, rates can only go up from here on out. I mean,
Right.
they've gone so low already. So, as we move further into stabilization or market rates increasing, and that being built into the cost of the homes, it's going to be a strain on getting at least
See
first time
interest
home
rates
buyers
going up.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not in the short term, but I mean, I don't think we can continue to push them down. I don't think we could
So
continue.
let's
to
talk
go
about
lower.
a person who has to walk away from his mortgage.
Sure.
Very sad. What then?
Well, that's what we try to help with, and that's why it's important to get proper representation on the front end, because if you have representation when you're first served with the foreclosure, normally those cases take 12 to 18 months on average
Oh,
to go all the way through.
Gotcha.
And so what you want to do during that time is start devising a plan to strategically make sure that even if you know you're going to have to leave eventually, you're set up so that you're not, you don't wake up in 2 days, you have to be out, right?
Exactly.
You knew it was coming. You had an opportunity to kind of divert some funds, save some money, reallocate, those type of things. And it should, make the transition somewhat easier. But for those who kind of stick their head in the sand
Right.
and don't want to face the reality, don't want to hire somebody to deal with the foreclosure, and they'll go through the process, and sometimes it'll, even if they represent themselves, it'll take 6 months or a year for the bank to actually get ownership of the property, or at least get it to auction and sold to someone else. But, because they don't want to deal with the reality, they can't be stuck in those unfortunate situations where it's like, hey, the home was already sold. Like you would imagine how many people I tell on a daily basis, your home has already been sold.
Right.
The chances of us undoing that sale are very
What about
slim.
bankruptcy?
Bankruptcy, that's your last option. So you
Okay.
can always go there. If it's a situation where you can't do a deed in lieu, you can't leave your home. If it's your homestead, bankruptcy could be a great option, right? To preserve your home, give yourself a chance to restructure your debt, and you don't have to be thrown out on the street. So it's definitely an alternative. It's something that people should consider if they're not successful in the foreclosure or modification process. Sure.
I think it's so important that people realize, because I watched my son in Dallas, and it was a personal injury thing, but he didn't hire an attorney to save money.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll tell you, I could have gotten so much more. And I got to tell you, it's so important if you have to spend a little bit of money with someone like Tayson who knows what he's doing, who can walk you through this, and you're going to end up so much better off.
No question.
Why should I hire you?
You should hire me because you could end up, well, if you were in foreclosure, you could end up losing your home, whatever the value is. If it's $300,000, $500,000, or $2 million, you could end up losing it just due to not fighting adequately and not taking advantage of the legal process that's there. So most of us who are in this practice, is not that many of us, but most of us can be retained for less than $10,000. And so if you're talking about investing $10,000 to restructure a bad debt and get you out of it
Save
without
your home.
catastrophe, it's,
Oh my,
you
it's
know,
like,
it's a
and I got to
no-brainer.
tell everybody something, because Tace and I have been working on putting this show together for about 2 months. And I got to tell you, he's very meticulous. He does his due diligence. And I've never said this about anybody before. And I want to congratulate you. I mean, you don't just jump on anything, and it must be the way you handle your business and your clients. And I love the way you handle your business.
No, I appreciate that. I make a brand statement for my business to say we always put people over profits, and so I try to keep that front and center with
believe
everything
that.
that we do. Yeah, and make sure that we don't take clients or cases if it's just for money. We make sure that we represent people, and I always tell my clients they always have access to me. I'm not going to push you off on somebody else. You'll
And he's
always
got a
be
great
able to-
assistant, too.
Yeah, I
You
do.
can't
Yeah,
get
thank
it.
you.
So
Yeah,
let's
thank
give everybody your phone number.
Sure. So the phone number nationwide is 1-800.
Write this down.
241 1559. That's 1-800-241-1559. And locally, 561-543-9226. 561-543-9226.
So for real estate foreclosure, you're actually getting ready to open up your title business. You even do a little personal injury and some employment law. Tayson Gaines, the Gaines Law Firm. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we have our next show. We're going to be talking about public adjusting. Tayson will be back again with us next month for more Ask the Experts. We'll be back.
Attorney Tayson Gaines practices real estate litigation, including but not limited to foreclosure defense, partition actions, quiet title, short sales, loan modifications, insurance claims adjustments, title deeds, and real estate contract disputes. Attorney Gaines attended the University of Miami School of Law. Mr. Gaines acquired his experience in real estate litigation by assisting with landlord-tenant disputes and foreclosure defense. Foreclosure is a legal process where a creditor, such as a lender or condo association, files a lawsuit to obtain judgment authorizing it to place your property up for sale at a public auction. At the Gaines Law Firm, you will have a one-on-one consultation to discuss different options, including loan modifications, refinance, and whether bankruptcy is recommended. Once you receive notice about the lawsuit, most people typically have 20 days to respond to the suit. If you file a response contesting the foreclosure action, it may take years before a judge rules or whether to grant foreclosure. Most people don't know